Welcome to Zentangle Project Pack number 15, day 1. My name is Rick.
Hi, I'm Maria. This is so exciting. I can't tell you how much fun that I had on this project, it being about letters. And in this first day, we're going to try to get you a little comfortable with what we have in mind. We're using like a Roman alphabet, a very simple print style letter to inspire us to create tangles using these letter forms. We're going to be working on this paper that we printed up special for this, but you can work on any paper you want, and you can do some pencil strings that make stripes. That's what sort of basically what we're going to be working on.
And we're looking at letters as elements of patterns. And this is ideally an inspiration to take your imagination and look at letters in a fresh new way as forms and what you can do with them and different ways you can put them together. And to prime that creative pump, we're going to go through each one of these letters today and the next video, and with different people doing different letters.
Different. This is new for us.
In totally different orders. And we're going to watch them with you and point out some tips and techniques and appreciation. And so get yourself settled and let's get started.
Okay, shake those sillies out. We're on a roll.
Here we go. In this first one, we're going to watch Molly begin with these wonderful tools. And she is going to do... Let's see what letter she's doing.
We're going to bounce around, right?
We're bouncing around here, and, well, that's appropriate.
Yes.
We're going to start with A. And it's important to appreciate that we're not giving calligraphy lessons here.
So you can see we're going to be using letters upside down, backwards, facing each other, just trying to use the letter form in different orientations and fillers, and just have some fun with them.
And looking at the letter as a pattern element. And part of the essence of pattern is repetition. So we're working with the repetitive shape of the letter A, so far without the crossbar, and just looking at that basic shape, and then the elements, in this case, adding in some of the serifs on the bottom.
So we purposefully did not draw all the way across there because we want you to also do a version of your own letter afterwards.
So you might choose to do whatever the artist here is doing, or you might decide to, I'm going to do something different. So Molly began with that brown PN, I believe.
That dark one, yeah.
And now this is, which is called sepia, and this is the crossbar was with the brown pen that is more reddish brown.
So as you can see, she's just adding some details here, but wherever you add a detail, then you do it on all of them.
And it's that repetition, of course, that makes it into a pattern. And what I really like about this is it's now tying those elements together.
I was just going to say they look like they're holding hands.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's this lovely mix of straight and curve. So those little elements of curves is that S shape, and it just ties it all together.
So Molly's adding some graphite on both sides of the stripe, and this gives it a little gravitas. It kind of lifts off the paper afterward, and we'll probably be doing this more often than not on these borders.
And I love watching Molly shade because she goes into all these little nooks and crannies, and you may not notice it at the beginning, but it's those little subtle touches that provides a little bit of context, that provides a little bit of dimension.
You can see now that it's all of a sudden, instead of a bunch of A's, it's becoming a patterned ribbon, right? A stripe.
So you can imagine molding like this,
Oh, yeah.
right, in Ochre Court down at
Yeah,
Salve,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. But the letter is what inspired the pattern.
Right.
So we're giving you ammunition, so to speak, to
Raw materials.
raw materials for when you sit down and you say, I just don't know what to do today. And just pick a letter.
Right. So in this case, let's pick the letter D.
So Molly's doing it mirroring the D's. And it's creating kind of an interesting optic here.
And notice the the deliberateness of stroke. The whole point of this is not to get it done, but to appreciate each stroke as you're going along, and sort of to perhaps see the letter for with fresh eyes.
So she's adding this detail that you would do if you were making Roman letters in calligraphy. You would add this sort of
Thickness to it,
a weighting in certain places, and we'll talk about this as we go along.
So if you'll notice, so now that the letters have been connected with the serif, all of a sudden the D has disappeared into the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine sending secret messages with tangles? It's
yeah.
like a version of steganography. That's a word for hiding messages in pictures.
Ah, there you go.
So the Zentangle steganography.
Oh, she's just adding some dots and some connectors here. All of these things are simple lines, simple ideas, and most of us were thinking these up on the fly as we went along.
And again, this is our inspiration, or the idea is that this be an inspiration that you will do things differently. You'll come up with things and put them together in a different way. So that's one of the reasons that we didn't fill up the whole line.
So she's coloring it in with that beautiful
Brown,
the
sepia
brown.
called brown.
Yeah, it's sepia color, but they call it brown in Socorro speak.
So this is a really nice fall color palette.
That's what it looks like. It looks like pumpkins.
Yeah.
The minute she put the orange down. Very cool.
And in there are D's. And now that they're part of that pattern, it's I love the direction this is going.
Right. It's beautiful. You almost want that somewhere, like a guitar strap or something, right?
Well, I can imagine wristbands or
Mm-hmm.
anything
Bracelets,
that's something that would be a subtle monogram without it looking like a monogram.
That's a great idea. Beautiful, Molly.
Okay, say on this one.
I think that's Martha.
This
right?
is Martha. And taking the E, but in a lowercase script.
So we've all learned E's this way, but how fun is this to just take the letter form in this exuberance of curves and play with that. Oh, no, I wasn't expecting that. Were you?
Right? So now that that's there, you can see these elements, and then, well, what can we do with these elements? How might they relate to each other? And this is one of those ways.
Yeah. We all had different takes on which direction to go in. This was fun. Look at that.
So a little bit of takeoff and land on those connectors, and then now in here it's sort of like a inner aura, that reverse curve, that S shape.
And then adding details. Zentangle's all about the details.
Mm-hmm.
A real simple tangle isn't, it's okay, but it's the real complicated ones that kind of get you.
And it's that mix and back and forth.
So she's taken the gold jelly roll and adding some detail with that. Look at that. That's so cool.
And when you're working with the with the gold jelly roll or any jelly roll, it takes a little bit longer to dry than the regular ink. So make sure you
Don't take the tortilla onto anything
right.
until you've waited for it to dry.
And sometimes I'll just put my finger on it lightly and see if it
Right.
comes off on my finger, and if it does, it needs a little longer.
Oh, that's neat.
So notice how instead of shading the edges, she just did it in the middle. So that's pretty cool.
Ah, she's got the H.
Now, she is using these orbs as a foundation for a tangle called Huggins, which is sort of neat because
That's her name.
That's her name, and it starts with H. And it was the origin of that is early on. We went to see Martha's husband's parents,
Yeah.
and we were, showing him Zentangle, and it was just the beginning idea. And Marshall's mom, Martha's husband's mom, said, "Oh, let me show you this thing that we did in high school." And it was this tangle. It's more than this because it spreads out, but you can look up Huggins as a tangle. And that became part of our palette of tangles.
So Martha's H was a little bit of a fairy tale version of the one that I have there, but you can see the H in it.
And then whatever you do, repeat it. And so in this case,
Rinse and repeat. Right?
rinse and repeat. So those little straight lines within the H. And the orb between those two elements being the crossbar of the H.
This looks like some of the braid I used when I was upholstering. You know.
So again, this is just an idea of how to look at letter forms and see what they inspire.
I like to add something dark, like she's doing right now, in most of them, so that they don't get too light and they have some weight to them. It attracts your eye, gives it a solid look.
Well, and that little bit of contrast of light and dark, straight and curve, small elements like those tiny dots that she put in, different colors, all of these things become components of the pattern.
I can imagine having 5 stripes and then just doing the stripes over and over and seeing what happens. Oh, we got a J.
So in this case, I think this is Molly. No, this
No,
is
it's
still Martha.
Martha.
And
I
she
can tell
is
by the way she
beginning.
holds her pen.
Right. She is beginning with the that sort of pink pen. So with the idea of there is no up or down in Zentangle, we'll just rotate the tile.
So it already looks good.
Right?
I don't know what she's going to do with it, but it looks good.
So in adding that little, like a fescue tip on the end of the J, you're adding, and then the serif on the straight edge, it's this really nice blend of straight and curve, light and dark, right?
Feel free to stop these too if it's going too fast. Get a good sense of it and either watch it again or stop it and take the time. Don't have to go fast. But we had 26 of these to do, so we have so many things we want to teach you in this course.
And the most important one, of course, is this idea of no one particular way to do a particular letter. Again, I like how she's shading the center instead of the edges. It's not what you'd expect. And it ties it all together. When you're using the tortillon, it's more like you're pushing the or inviting the graphite into the paper, and if you use the side of the tortillon, it lasts a lot longer.
This is me?
That's you.
This is me. Ah, okay, C's. So we bounced around, and because of how we did these, we had a few of them going at the same time, but we will pull them all together on
Right.
one at the end.
So different people worked on different sheets. And again, this is just the general letter shapes.
So I'm going inside the curve and making another curve, almost like a crescent moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
A real crescent moon.
Right. Right. We call crescent moon, but it's neither
not.
a crescent nor is it a moon, right? So now we've got those elements repeating. We get to see
My thought process here. So I'm aura-ing and then drawing a line next to it.
So I like the idea of straight and curvy.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were thinking about my name. Looks like a C and a K there.
Oh, yeah. A little bit, yeah.
So whatever you pick, even if what you pick is not what you expected, like you picked up a different color pen or you made a different mark, we'll just repeat that and it becomes part of the pattern. So now in that empty space, I think you like filling up empty spaces.
I do. I'm putting some graphite on both sides.
So it's almost like those C's created a space. They were really like a string for those other shapes to form. Those shapes wouldn't have formed without those C's.
Add some color. I have that orange. The orange and the pink was surprisingly fun to work with.
And one of the things about the orange in particular, and also the pink, is when you go over a darker color, it doesn't, the darker color shines through or comes through. And also in the reverse, when you do the jelly roll gold, it covers anything.
So, gee, we have a different letter here.
Gee.
Gee whiz. So I'm starting with the curve, and then going to add the descender here.
So I like that you're doing each stroke and not completing the letter each time. That's an interesting approach.
Well, it's more like a tangle, right?
Right? And it's bringing out the patternness of it.
So I have sort of like a little squiggly line, not only making that part of the G, but also connecting it to the next one. So I'm aura-ing inside the letter, and I'm using the 01 brown because it's finer than the other one, and it's a little bit of finer tip. Aura-ing different places.
And the use of aura is something that I'm surprised it didn't show up that much sooner. But in some ways, like when Molly did the A's are aura-ing each other.
Right. Oh, they did.
Right?
They disappeared.
Right, and by inverting every other one. So now here the aura is connecting that really elegantly.
Adding some pearls in there, or perfs.
And you'll notice when Maria does that, they're scrunched up on each other. They're not touching as much as almost overlapping the strokes.
So adding some drama in.
Very cool.
Neat, huh? You almost don't see the G's in there.
Right? And there's that sense of that crossbar on the G or not, whatever that is, just extending through the whole
Oh, I'm adding orange
composition.
in there. I forgot I did that. Kind of neat.
Just little dots. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see we all had different approaches,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. I'm going in pretty heavy there. And I think I just went on one
Just
side.
at one side, yeah.
So something different on each one. See, just on one side, it gives you, it looks like it's rolling over. Oh,
I'm not
so my O's are going to be touching here like a pearl necklace.
And I like how often when you do the O is that you do it as half strokes. The left side and then the right side in the other direction. And I've ended up doing that on mine. So it's I like the way it forms the shape better. Or not better, but I like the shape.
So I'm adding some beading or perfs inside that crescent moon shape I put in there. That's with the brown micron.
I'm looking forward to seeing different language characters because
Yeah.
it really reinforces the idea of Zentangle tangling as its own language that will, is immediately recognized across, all different language groups.
Right.
So I like how those are peeling off, right?
Right.
That take-off sense.
So I'm adding some color in here.
And also working with the interstices. We just love that word. The little gaps between elements.
Right. But I think when you leave, like when you aura it, and you leave a white space in between, it has a little more interest.
Well, it's actually, when you put it in that way, you're adding two elements. You're adding the triangle itself
Right.
and the gap.
And the white, with the white gap.
That's really cool. It's two strokes in one.
Yeah.
I love that. When you add an aura, you're adding literally
line.
two strokes.
A line and a space.
Right. Two elements. Nice.
Oh, the Y. I didn't do the Y. That's on a different one. I had
So
already done it.
You did the Y, and we'll go back to that. I
Yeah.
think it's in tomorrow's video.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, I really like the Y.
So we really, it's a spoiler alert, folks.
Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, but upside down. But you can see that I'm going to fit it in pretty close here. And then the dot is going outside the line.
So it's finding the elements and look at how they fit together. I love that.
Aura is your friend.
Right.
This is going to totally change the look of it with just an aura.
And of course, remember, you see how she's turning her tile, so what she's auraing isn't covered by her pen.
Pretty, huh?
It looks like some sort of beautiful tape. That's very similar to what
what
Martha
did, right. And we didn't,
Right.
we're actually I am actually seeing these for the first time, so Rick saw them, but I hadn't seen them.
Right? That's interesting. Well, wait till you see one that Molly did and you did. I
Oh,
put
yeah?
them together in tomorrow's. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very funny. Well, to me.
I love the idea of different artists showing their work here so that everybody out there can see how different people
Mm-hmm.
come up with their ideas.
Fun.
Okay, this is a simple loopy capital L in a script, a little bit different than the Roman. So you can see where I'm starting right above where I finished. And then coming down straight.
Reminds me of the beginning of Elish, right?
Yes.
And then selecting something, anything, and then
Yeah.
auraing it and just doing it multiple times. I like the different ways that people connect the letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Like chorus line dancers. Can. Okay, here's with the orange.
Well, that little gap that you left in that initial aura
Right.
is makes a big difference there.
They're very happy.
They are very happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you're doing it, just after everything is done, you can say, oh, I think I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do something differently. It doesn't have to be the same as you change your mind or take inspiration at any moment along the way. So this is about as basic a repetition as you could get, right?
Right.
I mean, the letter contains its own repetition.
So I'm sort of auraing to the right of every line.
Well, that's interesting, because the aura of the first M connects with the second M.
Mm-hmm.
Very sweet.
Rick-rack.
Yes.
It was a big deal I remember when it came out in my mother's store, Rick-rack. It was kind of a cool thing.
So whatever you do, just keep repeating it.
Yep. So it's sort of a flame shape. Isn't that what you'd call that?
And using that sense of takeoff and land,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like retracing. And when we say takeoff and land, it's like instead of just abruptly beginning or ending, there's a slight retracing where the lines meet.
Oh, I'm kind of going with the flame idea.
Right? And again, this nice balance of a solid element with all line work.
Who knew? M's.
Right? Using a sense of a hollow ball with those flames going up beyond it, or drawing behind the flames. now you really have to look for the M's, but they're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
Cool. I like it. So I'm adding an extra line on the beginning of the V just to give it some shape, and probably for spacing too. And thickening the line, the downstroke.
So it's more common in Roman letters that the downstroke will be thicker.
Right.
And of course that the ending stroke would have a flourish.
Right.
So now there's a space. What to do in that space?
Brown macaron.
So it's those small rice shapes like you would do in bales, or we'll use that in a variety of tangles.
Right.
And looking at what you're doing, turning it, all of a sudden you'll see it in a different light. So that's actually a really good tip when you're working on something like, let's say you have a line of letters. Well, turn it on its side, turn it upside down, and see what you see. A lot of times you will see things differently when you can't recognize the element itself.
Right.
In typesetting, part of my background was in typesetting, and when we looked at the overall page appearance, we were taught to turn it upside down, because then you weren't distracted by seeing what it said. You could see the actual shape or pattern that the line endings formed, or what they called rivers, those spaces between the words.
Well, we also did that in portrait painting or portrait drawing. You would turn it upside down to see if you got it right. You know, you could tell.
Speaking of going upside down.
So this is an ampersand. It's not everybody's go-to. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but it's like a backwards scripted S. So every time you think of it, you have to say not an S, not an S.
Well, it also looks like what's the symbol? G clef?
G clef, yeah. G clef, which it should have been an S clef, don't you think?
And again, finding a way to connect it, and now it's like, is it an ampersand or is it something else?
Going in with the gold jelly roll. It's hard to see in this video, but you'll see it on your paper.
Yeah, particularly when it's still wet, it has a dark, but now I think maybe on this one you tip it up and we can see it.
Yeah, pretty, huh? It's almost calligraphic, like a radio wave.
Right. I love that. So explore. You'll see how we're exploring with the different tools as well as part of the pattern.
So the orange added kind of a nice complement to the gold.
Very nice.
Yeah,
you can see the reflection.
And I think that's the orange. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty. So what happened here when I was making this grid with all the letters, I had some extra spaces, and I thought, well, what else can I put here? So this is what you got.
So watch when she's doing the lines. They're not the same pressure all the time on those downward strokes. There's this, I don't know how to describe it, but there's this.
It's a dance. It's a dance.
It's beautiful. I love how you do that. It's this interaction with the paper, the pen and the paper. It's not always the same pressure. So there's the character, the letter form, and then how they're connected to each other.
These sort of disappeared. You don't see the
Right.
Is it hashtag?
Right.
They almost look like stars, huh?
Or bunting, or yeah. So that negative space just invites something in there. So this is all a exercise and inspiration for imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And
It teaches you, you have to practice being, creative. It's the more you do it, the more you have the more ideas. You don't use up all the ideas. You get more as time goes
Right.
on. The more you use your creativity, the more you'll have.
right, it's like all of a sudden the pipe that delivers it or whatever,
Yeah.
it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The more you demand for it, it just keeps coming out.
Okay, so this is a little new. I'm doing an aura in the pencil, and let's see what we do with that. And then I'm just going to pull it off, and it shades it in a different way.
And it lifts it up, just keeping that gap there. So have fun with this, play with it, come up with something excitingly different than us, or do what we did, and we will see you tomorrow, or we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah,
Whenever
next
that
video.
is.
Okay, have fun.
Bye now.
Bye.